Hello anybody, and thanks for tuning in to Monday Morning Handicapping. This is a 2025 Kentucky Derby Contenders edition, and it might be my last one before the Kentucky Derby coming up next Saturday, but if someone wants to put out a request for one, maybe two more horses, I'd be happy to cover them. But the last Kentucky Derby contender as of now that I'm going to be covering is a horse named Final Gambit, whose sire or father was a racehorse named Not This Time. Final Gambit's mother or dam was a horse named Pachinko, who was by Tappet, so Tappet was the father of this horse's mother, Pachinko. Final Gambit is trained by Brad Cox, and the jockey is Luan Machado. Here's just a quick list of the Kentucky Derby prospects or contenders that I've covered thus far. Some of these horses are off the Kentucky Derby trail right now, but are running in other races, so if you just want to get a little background information on these individual runners, some in the Derby, some not, and go ahead and look ahead to some of the races they're going to run in. Maybe you can catch them at a good price based on what you see in my videos, but here's just a list of the horses that I've covered thus far that were at one point on the Kentucky Derby trail. So starting off looking at the pedigree of Final Gambit, again the sire or father was a racehorse named Not This Time. Not This Time raced 4 times in his career with 2 wins and a second, earning $450,000 in his career, which were all on dirt. In route races of mile or greater, he had 3 route races, 2 wins and a second. He was a grade 3 winner, never won a grade 1, but ran second in a grade 1, and the Kentucky Derby is a grade 1. It's the highest level of racing. This horse improved his speed figures in each of his first 4 starts, so this horse was improving as he raced more and more. Has produced 12 $1 million career earners since he went to stud out at the breeding shed since 2018. Has produced 8 grade 1 winners since 2018. He was the sire of Epicenter, who was second in the 2022 Kentucky Derby as the betting favorite, losing by huge upset Rich Strike, which I believe he won the race at 87-1. Not This Time had a short but productive career both on and off the racetrack. Looking at the dam or mother of Final Gambit, a horse named Pachinko, 9 career races, 1 win, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, $60,000 in career earnings, 5 starts, 1 win, 2 seconds domestically. Her first 4 races were overseas. Broke her maiden routing on the turf, so this horse probably liked to go a longer distance and maybe passes some of that ability to her offspring, and was also trained by Brad Cox. So Brad Cox trains Final Gambit and also the mother of the horse. The dam sire, so the father of Pachinko, Tappet. Let's see what he passes along through his bloodline perhaps. 6 career starts, 3 wins, no seconds or thirds, a little over $500,000 in career earnings. His best races were 8 to 9 furlongs, so a mile to a mile and an eighth. Was a winner at grade 1 and grade 3 levels. Finished 9th in the 2004 Kentucky Derby. He's the sire of 33 grade 1 winners. Sire of 40 yearlings that have reached over $1 million purchase price at auction. Most progeny earnings for any sire ever in North America, so his runners have earned the most money out of any other sire, and was a 3-time champion sire and only top 5 sire from each year between 2010 and 2023. So Tappet is just a very popular horse in the breeding shed, and his offspring tend to show a lot of talent and reach a pretty penny. Taking a little deeper look at the pedigree of Final Gambit, one of my buddies told me about this. Final Gambit is a descendant of many talented racehorses, one being Secretariat, who some argue is the greatest racehorse of all time and a Triple Crown winner, and also Seattle Slew, who was a Triple Crown winner himself. There's some other names on this list of some very talented horses. I'm not as well versed in them. You could look it up, but some names that I've heard: 49er, Northern Dancer, Mr. Prospector, Nijinsky. Seems to be a descendant of some really talented runners, including Secretariat, probably the most well-known racehorse ever. You can take a deeper look in any racehorse's pedigree by visiting pedigreequery.com and just dig through the notes in there. I will admit the website looks a little dated. It's a little tough to navigate, but once you find your way through, there's a lot of information in there. Taking a look at the connections of Final Gambit, the trainer again is Brad Cox, has a career win rate of 26% from 10,000 starters. Graded stakes level, 23% win rate from 950 starters. a 26% win rate on dirt versus a 24% win rate on the turf, was a 2-time recipient of the Eclipse Award for Outstanding Trainer in 2000 and 2001, was awarded a win via disqualification in the 2021 Kentucky Derby, so although his horse didn't finish first, he was eventually awarded the win via disqualification in 2021. Has also run third 2 other times in the Kentucky Derby in 2023 and 2021, so he can get his horses to run a peak performance come the Kentucky Derby. Ranked third in earnings and fourth in wins last year, 2024. Taking a look at the jockey, Luan Machado, a career win rate of 15% from 4,100 starters, a graded stakes win rate of 18% from 49 starters, 16% win rate on dirt versus 10% win rate on turf, so a little bit better on the dirt this jockey is. Only has stats going back to 2015 on Equibase.com, so a relatively newer rider who has picked up more mounts each year. Nearly doubled his number of mounts from 2023 to 2024, which could be an indicator of his improving skills from the viewpoint of owners and trainers. So this is a jockey that more trainers and owners are pointing their horses towards. He was ranked 22nd in earnings and 23rd in wins last year, 2024. Final Gambit, as of April 20th, 2025, 4 races in his career, 2 wins, a second and a third, with $508,000 in career earnings. Currently 30-1 odds in the futures betting pool to win the 2025 Kentucky Derby, according to HorseRacingNation.com. He has 100 Kentucky Derby points, ranked 8th out of the 20 spots eligible for the Kentucky Derby, which he earned with the first place finish in the 9 furlong or mile and an eighth Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes at Turfway Park, which I might add is on a synthetic surface. So why Final Gambit? The field is essentially set, so I wanted to look at some additional runners that will be in the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby. Has a strong pedigree for long distances. Has only raced on turf or all-weather or synthetic surfaces, so there are additional questions surrounding this horse that require a keen eye. The Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes has been a productive prep race for the Kentucky Derby in the recent past despite the all-weather surface. Looks to have a beneficial running style, projected to be coming from off the pace, perhaps even last, closing late in a Derby where most of the current top contenders will be running. So a lot of the top contenders in the Kentucky Derby look to be coming from off the pace. I expect him to be one of those making his late run, along with some of the other well-touted horses in the race. So here we're going to start looking into his previous races. I'm going to go over some notes of each race. We'll watch the race replay so everyone can get a visual of what happened. And then we'll look at the top 3 finishers from each race just to get a sense of who he's been racing against and how talented those horses are, whether he beat them or not. So the first race, November 9, 2024 at Churchill Downs. It was an 8 furlong or 1 mile race on debut. So first ever race going 2 turns, 1 mile on a firm turf track at Churchill Downs, which of course is where the Kentucky Derby will be held. So this horse on debut is getting a little familiar with the grounds. And in debuts, I'm looking at the body language of the horse and jockey on debut. Look at where the horse is running. Is he out in the open or in tight against horses? Does the horse look comfortable? Does the jockey really have to ask the horse to keep running throughout the race? Just kind of watch their body language. Less is typically more. If the jockey's not doing a whole lot, then the horse is running comfortably, doing it all on his own. But it's just something I look for on debut. So when the race starts, this horse breaks a step slow from post number 5 of 12, gets squeezed at the start, pushed back to last early. So squeeze just meaning 2 horses, sometimes both, sometimes just one of them, will kind of cut in front of them and force the horse to take back a little bit, and that's what happened on debut. However, this horse gets down to the rail about 4 to 5 lengths off the leaders into the first turn, so he's saving ground, being tight to the inside of the turn. He was in tight between horses entering the far turn, still near last place. Weaves through traffic entering the stretch. Eventual winner number 12 takes off. Final Gambit hits the accelerator a bit too late, but clearly gaining late in the race. Here's the leader splits, how fast the race was run by the leader of the race at each quarter mile. First quarter mile, 23.8. Next quarter mile was running 25.93, then 24.76, then 23.06. So you can see that this race was getting a lot faster later in the race, and Final Gambit was making up a lot of ground late in the race, so he was running exceptionally fast, making up ground into this fast pace. Eventually finishes third by 3 1/4 lengths at odds of 7 to 2. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the race. So we're number 5, the gray horse. You'll see he gets squeezed at the start. Horse who's inside cuts him off. He kind of turns his head, forced to the back. Jockey's not desperate for him to get back to the pack. Jockey looks very comfortable. Horse is just chugging along. See, he's down near the rail, so he's not going wide, not running a further distance of ground like some of these horses out here. It's just saving ground. And on debut, this horse is in a little bit tight. He's up against the rail. Horse is to his outside. But the horse's head is down, calm. He's not throwing his head around. The jockey's not doing too much, just letting him run comfortably. And again, the number 12 is the eventual winner, which I believe is the yellow jacket here. We'll get a better look at him later. Now he's moving up in between horses. Again, on debut, the horse's head is calm. Body language is still. Just racing along evenly. In between horses. Keep an eye on the jockey's cap color. Yeah, the 12 is this yellow silks on the jockey. Here comes Final Gambit, just weaving through traffic. Here's the eventual winner right here, right in front of him. Final Gambit, not really making up ground yet. You can see the 12 starting to take off. Final Gambit picking up speed now, gaining momentum. Looks like the 12 is separating, but watch Final Gambit come closing late in the race. Just way too late, but he's flying much faster than the other horses. So taking a look at some of the others in this race, that first place finisher has 6 career starts, 1 win, the one we just saw just there, a second and 3 thirds. A horse named Maui Strong was purchased for $275,000. The race we just watched was his 3rd ever career start, has 2 thirds and a second in ungraded stakes since this race. So after this race, he went on to run in some stakes races with some respectable finishes, some thirds and a second. The second place finisher has 3 career starts, no wins, 2 seconds, no thirds. A horse named Plenza was purchased for $70,000. This was his 2nd career start and ran 3rd in a maiden race next time out after the race we just watched. The horse is still a maiden, meaning has yet to win his first race. And the 3rd place finisher, our horse that we're looking at, Final Gambit, 4 career starts, 2 wins, a second and a third. This was his debut race. Lots to forgive. Tough start, but came running late through the traffic as we saw. Second race, January 4th, 2025 at Turfway Park. Another 8 furlong race or 1 mile on a fast synthetic track at Turfway Park. I'm looking to see what he can do with a clean break from the gate, being closer to the front early. Break sharp from post number 10 of 12, near the front, about 4 wide into the first turn, so not saving much ground into that first turn. Head is slightly raised, not quite keen, not really erratic, but his head isn't as calm and low as it was in his previous race throughout the backstretch. Stalks a loose leader from about 2 lengths back through the backstretch, under hand urging around the far turn, so the jockey's asking for the horse to pick up the pace or at least keep pace with that front runner. Runs evenly through the stretch, can't quite pass the loose leader, and running evenly, just wasn't losing ground on the leader, wasn't making up ground, just stayed about the same distance throughout the stretch. The splits of this race, again on a new surface, 24.14, 24.67 to the next quarter, 24.74 to the next quarter, and 25.48 for the final quarter. The winner ran ideal fractions to hold on, so that loose leader ran very similar fractions throughout the race. Not so fast early that he lost stamina late, but not so slow early that other horses were able to catch up and pass him early on in the race, in which case might force his hand to run a little bit faster in some of these later quarters. So the loose leader just ran real even fractions comfortably, and that's hard to pass a horse that can just run at a comfortable tempo throughout an entire race. Final Gambit finished second by a half length at odds of 6-5 as the betting favorite. So let's go ahead and take a look at that race now. So post 10, again the big gray horse breaks a lot cleaner this time, and unlike last race goes up near the front, so trying a different tactic this time. Breaks out clean, jets out to the front, and you can see how wide he is in this turn, way off of the rail, about 4 to 5 passes wide. Just stalking this loose leader. I don't think it's something he's going to want to do in the Kentucky Derby. He will be mid-pack to near last, I would expect, with the strong leg kick and the added distance. Here he is on the outside, the jockey with the pink cap. You can see this leader. The jockey's kind of holding the reins tight. His legs are almost back at a 45, asking the horse to slow it down just a little bit, at least not pick up the speed. And this is that comfortable tempo I was talking about, going about 36 miles an hour. Horses can top out at around 40, so it's going a few miles an hour slower. And again, Final Gambit in second place, stalking this leader. You can see the hand urging by the jockey, asking for the horse to pick it up just a little bit. Not desperate, but he's pumping his arms. Now he's really asking him to go. Whip's not out, but he's asking him to pick it up, and he's really not gaining. See, the leader is still running about 36 miles an hour. Just that comfortable speed that he's able to run throughout the entirety of the race. Here's Final Gambit, about 3-4 wide entering the stretch. Looks like he wants to veer in just a little bit. There, he's trying to make his kick. Veered in a little. You can see his head kind of tossing around. Finished the race at just under 35 miles an hour, and he's coming, but time ran out for Final Gambit. So the others in this race, that first place finisher had 7 career starts, 1 win that we just saw right there, and a third. Horse's name was Peanut Butter Whiskey. This was his 6th career start. It was his best career race by speed figures and his only win in 7 starts. Finished 3rd in an allowance race after this race on the same track. Second place finisher, our horse Final Gambit, 4 career starts, 2 wins, a second and a third, running on a new surface from his debut race. Remember, his debut race was on the turf, the grass. Got a clean break and was able to stalk the leader this time. Did not have as strong of a late kick, surface, or too close. So my question was, does he prefer the turf and chose that turn of foot, or was he too close to the speed early and just was a little bit more tired and therefore didn't have that late closing ability when he's running a little bit faster early on through the race? Again, only a second starts, so still lots to learn about this runner. Third place finisher, 6 career starts, no wins, 2 seconds and a third, a horse named Reach. This was his 4th start and this was his best race to date. Finished 5th and 8th since this race. So had 2 other races after this, finished 5th and 8th. So Final Gambit ran against 2 other horses, this 1st and 3rd place finisher, that ran their best races to date this day that he was facing them. So you can just say that he got a little bit unlucky in that regard. Was a respectable second, but for a Kentucky Derby contender, you hope to see some improvement after this race. Third race, February 15th, 2025 at Turfway Park again. Another 8 furlong, 1 mile fast synthetic track. Turfway Park, looking to see an improvement with his late run should he be close to the front again. So if he is close to the front, I want to see him have a little more kick late in the race and be able to pass a horse. Break sharp from post number 8 of 11. Our horse is number 10 this time. There was some scratches, so our horse is number 10, but breaking from the number 8 post. Takes back to mid-pack by about 6 lengths and 3 to 4 wide into the first turn. So another change of tactics, back to his late closing kick. Goes a little bit wide into the first turn. Falls back to last place by about 10 lengths entering the backstretch, so really takes back even after the first turn. Begins his move halfway around the far turn, entering the stretch 5 to 6 wide in the clear. So this horse was 3 to 4 wide on the first turn and 5 to 6 wide on the second turn. So he's losing anywhere from 8 to 10 lengths just being wide around the turns compared to any horse that is running down on the rail. Remember, a rule of thumb is for every path out wider you are around the entire turn, you're running 1 length distance further throughout the race. So this horse is running a further race than any horse on the rail and makes up a lot of ground late in the stretch. Veers in slightly while straightening out in the stretch, but recovers and does not lose momentum. The leader splits for the quarter miles, 24.33 to the first quarter, 24.11 to the half mile, 25.47 to the 3/4, and 26.89. Now our horse finishes first, but our horse made up about 10 lengths late while wide around the far turn. So roughly by rule of thumb, for every 1/5 of a second, that is 1 length. So if our horse made up 10 lengths, you can roughly subtract 2 seconds off of this final quarter time to tell you about how fast Final Gambit ran the final quarter mile. So roughly 24.89 seconds. So this horse was running very fast late in the race while going wide, telling me that this horse just has a lot of stamina and also prefers to be a late closer. Finished first by 2 1/4 lengths at odds of 6 to 5 as the betting favorite. So let's take a look at this race. Our horse is number 10, the big gray horse, but is the 8th post out. He's going to break out and get about mid-pack early and then fall back to last entering the backstretch. So he breaks clean, but you can see the jockey's kind of taking a hold, letting some of the other horses go in front of him. About 3 to 4 wide into this first turn. Jockey's in no rush, happy to sit in the back where this horse seems to do his best running. Again, jockey with the pink cap. We got a foggy day at Turfway Park. He's off the screen now. We'll look up top to see where our runner is. Right back here you can see other horses are passing him and he is now officially in last place. The jockey sits really calm on this horse until pretty late in the race. Had I had money on this horse this race, I'd be getting a little bit nervous, but he comes with a furious late rally. Jockey still sitting chilly. Watch the body language. Arms are pumping just ever so slightly, so 3 to 4 wide around the first turn. Creeped up a little bit, just staying with the pack, but not really making his move yet. Other horses are getting away from him. Hasn't really started his move yet. We're almost entering the stretch, halfway around the turn. You can see the diagram below. Horse is off the screen, and just watch for the big gray horse to start his wide rally. Here he comes. Jockey's in an all-out bid. Horse is really wide. He's going to veer in just a little bit, straightening out. You can see he closes in down on these horses, straightens them out, doesn't really lose momentum. And you can see him really kick it into high gear now. And in the end, it's just an easy winner. Running away, winning by about 2 1/4 lengths in the end. So looking at the others in this race, first place finisher, Final Gambit. First win while going back to his deep closing run style that he showed on debut. Second place finisher, 3 career starts with a second place finish. That was the race we just watched. A horse named Bermuda Triangle was a $600,000 purchase, sired by a Triple Crown winner Justify. So Justify, a Triple Crown winner, was Bermuda Triangle's father. This was his second career start and best race of his career. Ran 6th next time out. So Final Gambit, again, beating a horse that ran his best ever career race in 3 tries. Third place finisher, 2 starts, a second and a third. Guy Smiley is the horse's name. This was his second and most recent start. This horse was DQ'd from a win on debut, so could be a promising runner next time out. Currently working out at Keeneland. So Guy Smiley actually won his debut race, but was disqualified for some reason, probably caused some interference. So technically you could say he has won a race, but from a betting standpoint was disqualified, so you would not have been paid out. And then ran third to Final Gambit. So Guy Smiley might be a horse to look out for next time. Most recent race, March 22nd, 2025 at Turfway Park, 9 furlongs, so stretching out a little bit to 1 1/8 miles on a fast synthetic track, the same track he ran the last 2 times at Turfway Park. Stepping up from a 1 mile maiden race to a 1 1/8 miles grade 3. Will need to be on his game to outkick grade 3 level horses in his first race against winners. Breaks slightly inward and squeeze back from post number 4 of 12. Takes back to last again by about 7 lengths, but saving ground near the rail entering the first turn. So it takes back again, but a lot closer to the rail, running less distance throughout the entire race. Hand urge entering the far turn. Enters the stretch about 6 wide. Veers in slightly again in mid-stretch, so that's 2 races in a row. He kind of veers in while straightening out. The leader splits 22.97, 24.94, 24.93, 25.07. So these middle 3 quarters run about the same speed, and our horse is making up lots of ground, so running faster than these fractions. And the final 1/8 of a mile or 1/2 of a quarter was running 12.19. So that equates to about 24.5 second final quarter, and our horse was making up lots of ground from a long ways out. So 24.5 minus the amount of lengths that our horse made up really indicates that this horse has a really good, fast, late closing kick. Finished first place by 3.5 lengths at odds of 15 to 1. So let's go ahead and take a look at this grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes, where Final Gambit earned his 100 points towards the Kentucky Derby. Again, the big gray horse, horse number 4, gets a little bothered at the start coming out of the gate, but likes to come from last, so not too much of a hindrance to his running style. They kind of break in together, as you can see. Falls back, gets down near the rail, so saving ground around the turns. Happy to be him back. Again, when he's in the Kentucky Derby, there might be 19 other horses in front of him, so he's really going to have to either go wide around them or weave his way through traffic. But you can see he's well back in last, a couple lengths off of the horses right in front of him. Looked like the jockey was asking him to pick it up just a little bit there, just to get to the back of the rest of the horses. He's not quite going to pass this horse that's second to last. Just comfortable to stay close to the pack. He's going to be wide into this turn, a little diagram below to see where they are in the race. So he just wants to sit real tight to the back of the pack. Jockey's not really asking him yet. Okay, there's arms go. Now he's really asking the horse to throw in that kick. And remember, this race is an 1/8 of a mile longer, so let's see if he can sustain his late run for an extra 1/8 of a mile. Here he comes wide into the stretch, as you can see, going wide around all the other runners, about 6 paths wide at least. He's going to veer in just slightly when straightening out, not nearly as bad as last race. And here he is showing that late kick on the synthetic surface. There it was, a little veering in, almost bumped that horse. And just has by far the best kick in the race late and is not slowing down. So taking a look at the others in this race, first place finisher, Final Gambit, improved against winners and with added distance. Secured his spot in the Kentucky Derby with this win, and the Kentucky Derby is 1.25 miles. I don't think that's going to bother Final Gambit one bit. Second place finisher, 6 career starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds. A horse named Flying Mohawk was purchased for $72,000. This horse came into this race with 2 back-to-back wins, one at Churchill Downs. This horse will be entered in the Kentucky Derby after others dropped out. So Flying Mohawk earned 50 points for this race. Was on the bubbles to get into the starting gate. Of course, they only allowed 20. So a couple horses opted not to run in the Derby. So now Flying Mohawk is in this race. Final Gambit beat this horse very soundly in this race. However, Flying Mohawk does have a win on the Churchill Downs track. So make of that what you will. But Final Gambit ran past Flying Mohawk pretty easily, and he will be facing him in the Kentucky Derby. Third place finisher has 5 career starts, 1 wins, 2/3. A horse named Maximum Promise was purchased for $60,000, sired by a 2019 Kentucky Derby winner who was eventually disqualified, named Maximum Security. This race was tied for his best career performance and was beaten soundly. So Maximum Promise ran his best race, or at least tied for his best race of his career, and Final Gambit beat this horse soundly. So that was Final Gambit's most recent and final race. So let's look at some of the positive and negatives about this horse, starting with the positives. Final Gambit is a descendant of Secretariat and Seattle Slew, both Triple Crown winners. Jockey and trainer have better win rates on dirt than turf, so maybe just for whatever reason have a little more success on the dirt, which is where the Kentucky Derby will be ran. Jockey has a higher win rate in graded stakes and overall career, so maybe this jockey gets a little pumped up for the bigger races. Has a race at the track, but it was on the turf, so he might feel a little more comfortable with familiar grounds. The horse might not be spooked or uncomfortable checking out new surroundings. The horse has been racing against decent horses and some who have run their best races when facing Final Gambit. No post position in the Kentucky Derby should be a huge hindrance to his chances with his drop back style. This horse is going to want to be towards the back, so whether he's in the one hole, in the middle, or on the outside, this horse is just going to drop back and get down to the rail. Maybe towards the inside might be better for him, just so he's almost guaranteed to save ground around the turns, but this horse is going to want to be near the back of the field early regardless. He's not going to be rushing out towards the lead. Will be high enough odds, and if he takes a liking to dirt, will give you plenty of excitement late in the race. You know he's going to be coming with that late kick should he take to the dirt. Some of the negatives, it's a big step up. His final prep race was a grade 3 and will be facing grade 1 winners for the first time in the Kentucky Derby. Has a tendency to veer in while straightening out in the stretch. In the Kentucky Derby, there's little room for error, so you want to be running straight throughout the stretch. Looks to do his best running from last or near last. Will need to pass most other top 3-year-olds while avoiding traffic and perhaps being wide around the far turn. So like I said in one of the replays, this horse might have to pass 19 other horses and either going to have to find a miracle trip down on the rail, or is going to have to go wide, maybe very wide, around lots of other horses that are top of their class, and has never raced on dirt before, so we don't know if he can run his best race on the surface. Now this horse has been training on the dirt, but he's never run a race on the dirt, so we don't know if his late kick will prevail as well on dirt as it did on the turf or the synthetic. Here are my rankings of the prospects I've covered, just of the videos that I've done. I'm placing Final Gambit in 4th out of the horses that I've covered for the Kentucky Derby, just below Tapan Street, who is also a Brad Cox entry. They have similar running styles, but I think Tapan Street is just going to be a little closer to the front. Final Gambit, just too many question marks about having to pass so many horses, going wide, and will he even like the dirt? I might switch him with Coal Battle. They're pretty close in terms of where I would rank them, but I had to give Final Gambit the nod just because I think the distance will be more favorable to his running style. Coal Battle is a really hardy horse. I'm just not sure if his late kick is going to be able to sustain going 1.25 miles, but I expect them to be both exciting horses to watch entering the stretch. So I've ranked Final Gambit 4th out of the prospects that I've covered. Thanks to anybody for watching. It is Kentucky Derby week. Again, if anyone has another horse that they'd like me to cover, please send me a request. Time is short. They're going to be drawing for the Kentucky Derby soon, and I'm going to want to look at the past performances and look at some of the other races on the card, get my bets in order. But workouts at Churchill Downs are available, so go take a look at the horses on the track. I believe you can just Google it or YouTube it. Just look at how the horses look on the track, see if there's any positives or negatives that you see. The negatives are more easy to spot, in my opinion. If a horse is sweating or looking around or just for whatever reason is fighting the jockey when he's working out, that's easier to spot. If you don't see anything, that probably just means the horse is comfortable and doing his usual thing. But the workouts are online, and I recommend people just take a look at the horse in the flesh on the track and take some mental notes of what you see. But anyways, feedback is appreciated, whether it's positive, negative, suggestions, or recommendations. Leave them in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and or share with friends. Go check out my video in this playlist, number 0, Kentucky Derby Race Pace and Track Profile, for more information about how the previous 11 Kentucky Derby races were run and won. My target audience, again, is for folks that are relatively new to the sport, so I try to explain things relatively simply and so that everybody can understand, to try to get new people into the sport. If you know anybody that's interested in the sport but is not sure what to ask or how to read a racing form and just wants a little introduction to the game, I have a couple of playlists. One is called How to Read a Racing Form, where I break down each component of the racing form into bite-sized pieces, tell you what it's telling you, how to decipher it, and just a real easy explanation of everything that you're seeing in the racing form. I also have another playlist, Betting on Horse Racing. This is where I take a look at each wager offered by a racetrack, break it down by the cost and the cost of the ticket depending on structure, and some things that I look for before I place any sort of bet. So just a couple of playlists that you can send to anyone you know that might be interested in horse racing, trying to help grow the sport and explain things to people that might be interested, to get them to really dive in and see what the game's all about. But I appreciate everybody for watching. This was my video on Final Gambit. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, and until next time, good luck everybody, and I'll see you then.